Good evening. After hearing the comments on income inequality from my fellow FSU student Frida Grace, I would like to share my thoughts from the opposing viewpoint. Frida's overall takeaways on income inequality were that the free market allows the rich and wealthy to continue with innovation, and by doing so, this means what was once only available to a select few is now accessible to many. While I can understand how this concept could be perceived, I believe there are several data elements that suggest otherwise. According to University of Virginia economics professor James Harrigan, he and his students have been using more than 35 years of data to study economic inequality here in the United States. As they sought out explanations and solutions for the rapidly widening gap between the very rich and almost everyone else, there were several key findings. Since the 1980s, there have been three particular indicators of economic inequality that have dramatically risen. One is referred to as the college premium, or the difference in earnings between a college student and a high school graduate, or excuse me, a college graduate and a high school graduate. Another is the overall difference between the lowest paid and the highest paid workers. Wages on the higher end have grown much faster, while some wages on the lower end have fallen, and particularly that for less educated men. Finally, the data shows the dramatic rise of the 1%, or the various wealthy people in our country. This group has significantly increased its share of the total income since 1980. With these findings, it is plausible to determine that the ever widening income inequality gap is not making wealth more accessible to the 99%, but rather continuing to perpetuate the problem. There was mention previously of material items like plasma TVs, computers, iPads, and iPhones becoming widely accessible to the majority of people. However, when we're aware that there is still a significant amount of the population living at or below the poverty line, it's not feasible to think of these material items as opposed to the basic needs, such as food, water, shelter, and transportation, which are often difficult for those in poverty. I would conclude, rather than the income inequality being a positive and seen as a blessing of sorts, it actually continues to be a major challenge faced at this time by business and society.